So, I just saw Fixed. It's been about 24 hours. I don't really know how to put it into words yet, but I do know that I have to talk about it because I want to put it in my Genndy Tartakovsky playlist. And I guess the way I want to approach this is I want to talk about the story, I want to talk about the characters, and I want to talk about some of the production behind the scenes stuff going into it. And also just my opinions overall. I think I do kind of want to start with my opinions overall towards Fixed. It's not really my favorite, I'd say. Raunchy comedies don't really work for me, especially not in animated form. Like, I was never a fan of Sausage Party, but even in like series forms, was never really that big of a fan of Family Guy. Never watched that much of South Park. So coming into this, I tried to keep an open mind coming in because obviously it's made by the one and only Genndy Tartakovsky. And that's not to say that I have this high expectation for him or anything. I know he's done stuff like Dexter, he's done like Hotel Transylvania stuff, so I know his work can be all over the place, but I still wanted to watch this in support of him. And I just don't think this movie clicked with me. Not only was it a raunchy comedy, but it was also just a coming of age story that just kind of felt like I've been here seeing that, but this time it's just dogs instead of anthropomorphic dogs. And that leaves me in a weird spot because I don't want to come in here and be that person that just talks negative over this just because it's a raunchy film. And I don't also want to be the person that comes over here and tries to defend a raunchy film. So I guess with that being said, the only thing I can do is talk about the movie and the problems I have with it. First things first, before we talk about the story, I do want to talk about some of the behind the scenes when it comes to Fixed. A lot of this can be found on Genndy Tartakovsky's Instagram. His Instagram is like a gold mine for a little bit of behind the scenes for the shows he worked on. I learned some stuff about Unicorn Wars Eternal, some stuff about Primal that I didn't know that I wish I knew in time when I was making those videos, but hey, I could do that for Fixed right now. In a post he uploaded last week, he mentions how this was an idea he had in his head since 2008, and he pitched it in 2010, but it didn't go anywhere. Quite frankly, I think in another post he said it won the most likely not to get greenlit award or something like that amongst his crew. And it's interesting because some of the first images he has of this post is a lot different than how the show is currently. It has some more in a Hanna-Barbera style, more anthropomorphic. Everybody's kind of standing up and stuff. In the show, only Fetch is standing up, and that's kind of the only one I can recognize within this picture. Then afterwards, things completely switched. I guess around the time the idea started picking back up steam, the name changed to Fixed. The characters are not anthropomorphic anymore, they're just dogs. Most of these images are of Bull himself, and it continues to be an evolution of that design before we get to the design that we have here today. Oh, and I guess one of the other big behind the scene things that happened was this was one of the things that kind of got axed, kind of got thrown in a dumpster, got canceled once the Warner Bros. Discovery merger started occurring. And it kind of looked like we were actually not going to see this film ever made, but then Netflix picked it up. Originally it was going to have a theatrical release, it was going to be the first 2D theatrical release in a minute, but we have it on Netflix instead now. I don't really have that much to share when it comes to the behind the scenes of Fixed. I just thought that was really interesting and I wanted to share that out so all of you guys could be aware of how long this was in his brain. Also, apparently Unicorn Wars Eternal was in his brain for 20 years as well, so he had some crazy ideas cooking up back in the day that he's finally putting out. This movie follows Bull, who's this dog that just wants to hump everything and anything in sight. The first 2 to 3 minutes of this movie is very hard to watch because we're just watching a family chase this dog while he's trying to get off on anything and everything he can because he wasn't able to on his nana's leg. It's weird. Like, dogs do that, of course. Not to that extent, of course, it's exaggerated, but I don't know. I'm not interested. And then we slowly start meeting characters. We meet his love interest, Honey. He goes to the park. He meets up with his crew, and there's this weird rivalry going on between show dogs, dogs who have their nuts, and dogs who've been neutered. Dogs who've been neutered, they feel less dignity. It feels like the main character, Bull, really has a pride in his balls, and he never wants to get rid of them. They're like his two pals that he can hang on with for the rest of his life. So obviously this movie's going one way, and that way is that he is going to get neutered. But before that, he runs away, and him and his friends decide to do the big nights. They decide if this is the last night you're gonna have for them, let's go all out, let's do everything and anything we could possibly get ourselves into. This is one of the most generic coming of age tropes that a movie can have. I guess the only equivalent of I can compare this to is if you're getting married. A bachelor party is normally that long night trip you can go on and no rules, do whatever you want, but just know when you come back it's time to get serious and get married. And this is kind of that. He's going around killing squirrels, getting into it with cats, getting high at one point. This show had a little bit for everybody. But really the show was just about two main things, sex and love. And although sex is the first thing I mentioned because of the way this movie started, because this is also a love story, the main character doesn't really hump anything outside of those first 2 minutes. The rest of the time that this movie has taken place, it's focused on his love that he has for Honey and how he wants to confess to her, and maybe like things have changed after he gets neutered, so he just wants to tell her now. And that leads them to this dog show contest where he has this one chance, this one opportunity to finally confess to her. But before he can, he sees her next to Sterling. I think his name was Sterling. He's this other uppity rich show dog who I guess is the bad boy, the rivalry of this movie. And this is where a little bit of forced drama is put into this. If you guys have been following me for a minute, you know if there's one thing I don't like in a show, is forced drama when it comes to relationships. It feels like that's the only way they know how to extend movies, extend shows, is to put these weird forced dramas into it where like you had to misunderstand the situation and get really sad because of it. And that's basically what happens here. He's like, she'll never be into me, even though at the beginning of the movie she was throwing it back on him, trying to get him to get to her. And that leads them to basically go into a strip club, which is not a good scene, you know. It's really not a good scene. I really liked Frankie and Lucky's stuff, but besides that, it's just not a good scene at all. Even like his situation that he had with Molasses, who was just Honey, but not. I just didn't like any of that, and it had another forced situation within there where she forced herself onto him, and Honey just so happened to come there because she was searching for him, and she spotted that and ran off. And then that leads us directly to the finale. I don't know if I like the finale of this movie or not. It is one of the most absurd things I have seen in animation, I guess. Honey's parents have set up a breeding session with Sterling because they're both show dogs, and if you know show dog culture, they want their dogs to be purebred and only want the best specimen for their dogs and stuff, yada yada yada. I don't even know how to say this properly for YouTube purposes. One way or another, Sterling ends up in Bull and doesn't open his eyes for the entire time, does his business, thinks he's the man, finishes and dips, all without seeing Bull. And that was the thing that made Honey be like, you know what? He did have his thing inside of another woman. I'm over it now. He put it back on Sterling, so I didn't have to. Therefore, all is forgiven. Let's finally make love. And that's exactly what they did. And it ended with a lot of little runts now. They now finally have so many kids. And Sterling, the big bad guy, is going to get neutered, and they live happily ever after. The end. Before we do conclude this, I want to take a moment to talk about the characters of said movie. We've been talking about Bull this whole time, and we've slightly mentioned Honey, but I don't really have much else to say about her because her whole character is just a love interest for Bull in this show. She doesn't really have that much else to her. I guess her whole story within her was to realize that in trying to fit in, she realized that she wasn't standing out at all. Everybody kind of looked like her in the show business, so she wanted to be somewhere different, and Bull was that different that she craved. Sterling, don't really have anything to say about him. He was really just a bully. He wasn't really funny. I guess that's the downside. I don't normally like funny bully characters. He was just kind of mean, which is also, I guess, fine. The only other dogs I want to talk about is Bull's crew. We have Fetch, who's the representation of the social media dog. He's always dressed up in these weird kooky outfits and talks about all of his following. He knows that his family has an account that they post pictures of him on and shows him all the likes and stuff. He's really into that. That's his entire character. That's his entire motivation. It's kind of funny, I'm not gonna lie to you. We have Rocco, who's the mother's milk of this crew for all my The Boys enjoyers, voiced by Idris Elba, and his whole thing is that he has this weird pent-up drama from never having the opportunity to get breastfed by his mother because she had so many kids that he was like 1 out of 15 and he just was never brave enough or never strong enough to go up and get some milk. It sounds weird saying it out loud, but I think they do the whole traumatic thing in a funny way. And then we have Lucky. I both like and don't like Lucky. He did some of the most disgusting things within this show, which I guess is representation of how some dogs are, because some dogs do just do whatever nasty thing they want to, and he does that. He eats poo. He gets sprayed by a skunk and enjoys the pain that he's in. He gets engulfed in it and wants more. It's like he got high from it. He enjoys his own pain and suffering. It's weird. And then in a strip club scene, he meets Frankie and they go off and they end up talking, and he has this weird introspective moment of himself, like, maybe I'm doing this because I'm afraid of being me. Maybe I need somebody to show me the way. I need to start being me, and I need that confidence boost into becoming the person I'm supposed to be. And Frankie was just that person. They sucked each other off, and it was oddly wholesome. And I think it's really funny that I kind of enjoyed that a lot more than I enjoyed Bull and Honey's relationship stuff. And it's not even that I hate their relationship, it's just kind of generic. They both grew up with each other, they were neighbors for their entire lives, and they always loved each other, but were both just too afraid to say it. They both grew up into two separate entire lives, but still had feelings for each other, and were like, maybe we can intermingle, maybe we can't, maybe our lives are too different, but maybe different's alright. I don't know, who knows? This was what that whole movie was about. If you want to be with each other, just be with each other, man. God, stop teasing me. Just do it already, brother. Come on. But overall, I feel very complicated about this movie. I spent this entire time wondering if I enjoy it or not. I don't know. Genuinely, I don't know. I didn't like the first couple minutes of it. Did I enjoy my time watching it? I'm pretty in the middle on it, I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't really love it. I didn't really hate it. It was just kind of a movie, and that's about as much as I can say about it. But with that being said, what are your opinions on Fixed? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. I'm sorry if this was a little all over the place. This is kind of off the cuff. I didn't write any script towards this, so sorry if this is just a whole lot of nothing and you wanted something more in depth. I'm sorry I couldn't offer that to you. But with that being said, I'll see each and everyone if you're around next time. Okay, goodbye.